March 9th, 2021. My name is Thomas Wiggin. And this topic is about accountability versus judging. Simplest way to determine or define accountability. Positive reinforced teaching, or the correct version, and is teaching a person about how the negative situation and acknowledgement of for a current issue with the positive and with positive and fair reinforcement. And so that's the way of saying I'm holding you accountable. I'm holding you accountable, for example, because of your passive aggression. I do not like it. It makes me angry. And I don't want to talk about it. And I don't want to talk to you about it. Because everyone needs to be held accountable for behavior like that. Because 1, it's unacceptable. 2, creates a hostile environment. 3, it's wrong. And 4, that ends relationships. Okay, those are the 4 reasons why we need to take accountability for behavior like that. That's not okay. It's not right. It's a sin if you're a Christian. And it's also cowardly. Accountability is a demand for parents, for young adults, for juveniles, for little kids. Accountability is a demand, period. Not a want, a demand. I'm just warming up. I'm warming up on teaching accountability. The words between accountability versus judging. Now, judging is someone, and you're looking down. You're being disgusted at someone without understanding them firsthand, when it should be you that needs to be sorry for judging someone. You know nothing about someone unless you experience it yourself. You have no right to call out, to judge someone unless you know them yourself, and unless you know their inside character. So, if I were you, you don't say anything about this. You're just as guilty when you mistreat someone, or when you judge someone, you look at someone disgusted, or whatever. You're just as guilty. You're just as cowardly. You are no better than that. You're just as bad, period. Remember this. I'm getting started. So guess what? I'm just teaching you on how to hold yourself accountable. Because I am holding judgmental people accountable. Now, similar words to accountability. Righteous, responsible, helpful, teaching, positive reinforcement, stepping up, being referees, checks and balances, is main, and also appropriate, and also another thing for similar words to accountability, and this one is also being reliability. Okay, that's similar to accountability. And another way of saying it, and what to workplaces and what bosses like is some personal responsibility. That's what I was taught in high school. Accountability is also considered to be personal responsibility. That means you hold yourself accountable, yourself responsible for your past failures, your past issues. You're willing to change for the better. Opposing words are similar words to judging: cowardly, stubborn, arrogant, ignorant, dunce, toxic, enabler, unfriendly, childish, sometimes hostile. But that falls under toxic. Anyways, if you don't hold anyone, now the consequences of not holding anyone accountable, is being an enabler. Enabling is something you don't want to go through, because my definition of an enabler is that you're supporting or promoting unhealthy behavior, in which you have no excuse to promote unhealthy behavior. If you're promoting disrespect in a household, or like between a father and son, like let's say the father is blowing up, and you're not stepping in, and because you think the father is blowing up, but you're allowing that to happen, you're just as guilty for enabling that behavior. Because you are because if you're a father or mother, and if you support blowing up, you're just as guilty for enabling that. You're just as guilty for two reasons. A, it's an unhealthy behavior, and B, unacceptable, because you're teaching your kids how to make some bad choices, make the same bad choices that you're making, like blowing up. There is no excuse for you to teach your kids to be blowing up like that, period. So remember that if you want to lose your relationships, let it be you. So, a little word of warning. Stubborn people don't like to be. So stubborn people do not like to be held accountable. Because as they are afraid that the truth will be known, and they're afraid to lose relationships. Well, guess what? The truth is under your nose. If you're stubborn you're just stubborn, you're just scared to admit it, that the truth has been under your nose, and you're still being held accountable. That's the danger. If you don't like to be held accountable, well, you have to be held accountable one way or the other. The worst thing you can go through if you're going to be held accountable for issues is losing your job. Because if you're being held accountable while you're losing your job, usually it's the fault of the employee. So, if you want to keep your job, you hold yourself accountable. The lesson here is accountability versus judging. If you're judging someone without knowing them, I think moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, uncles, I think you need to take your grandson or your granddaughter, your nieces and nephews, your son or your daughter, on a tour to a homeless shelter, on a tour to a hardware store, and that you teach them a little about hard work. Because if they don't like to be judging, if they're judging people, well, guess what? I think it's time for a little reinforcement that they learn some hard work. Because judging people without knowing them is a lose-lose situation. Because eyes are everywhere. Eyes are everywhere. Even cyberspace has eyes. Because you're having countless people watching you who through cyberspace. And guess what? Stays forever. So, now you know. So please, and my reason for the tour or field trip is to make judgmental people held accountable. That to think you do not approve of judging behavior, or to have them talk to a counselor because they need someone to guide them, because inside they could be hurting, and you just don't want to accept it. You're just too afraid to accept it because deep down you're hurting, and some of the things you've been experiencing, some of the issues you've experienced was not really your fault. You're not at fault with some of the issues you've experienced. But it's just time for you to talk to someone. Open up, tell them the situation that you've experienced, and you should deserve the appropriate help you need. So, please comment, like, rate, share, subscribe. And good night.